So apparently this hangout is live on air, which is awesome because we have a wonderful guest today. So this is another segment of the Leadership Summit that I am calling Seeking the Path. I've gathered together all kinds of experts. I've gathered together comedian experts and musician experts. And I call them experts because they've usually won major awards or they've been in the field forever and ever and ever. So we have comedians and musicians, actors. We had Annie Potts. I mean, it's really Make-A-Wish. I mean, this is a big summit and it's all free. So how lucky for you. I'm Lynette Louise, the brain broad. As you can see behind me, I have a brain and I travel abroad and I actually work on brains. So, you know, that's why I got the title. Besides, it's very fun for me to watch the senior citizens go, "Oh, you call yourself abroad?" And I'm like, yes, I go abroad. I call myself abroad. It's very fun. The conversation lasts for hours. So just now you'll never forget me. Okay, so this is my new book. And that was my motivator for getting this started, to make sure that everybody knows about it. I think it's important to understand the senses, and it's called The 7 Senses of Leadership, The Brain Broad's Guide to Leadership Sensibility. Done with that. It's on Amazon.com if you want to get it. Okay, today's guest is Tracy L. Spears. I have to say the L like that because I'm LL. Actually, I'm LLL, but that's another day. So Tracy L. Spears, and she's pretty amazing. I'm going to tell you why I invited her. You know, I know so many people, and I had to make very clear choices about who I would have on. I wanted up-and-comings. I wanted people who were kind of plateauing themselves because of their belief systems, and I wanted people who were really way up there, and some you've never heard of because they are, you know, 100 millionaires, 50 millionaires, 75 millionaires, and they're too busy to be telling you how to do it because they're busy doing it. So fortunately, I'm friends with people all over the world that are in that position, and I've availed myself of some of them. All right, today's guest, Tracy Spears. I want to read this because I love the way it's written. Tracy Spears is the co-author of the best-selling book, What Exceptional Leaders Know. Her powerful collaborative approach has helped leaders and aspiring leaders all over the world to improve their leadership skills and their understanding of how to positively influence people and organizations. Okay, you can read the rest yourselves. Okay, here's the thing. Why did I invite Tracy? Because we were at a mastermind together, and a mastermind is a gathering of people who are all trying to do the same thing and give each other help and are, you know, brainstorming and that sort of thing. And at that mastermind, which by the way was Justin Sachs's mastermind, and there's an interview with him, it was the highest quality mastermind I'd been to up till then. And while I was there was this woman, Tracy Spears, who I'd never met before. And she reminded me of a lesson I'd forgotten. So I was kind of a mess that day, actually. And there she was saying, no, I don't want to jump into this career unless I can make at least $400,000 a year. Now, here's why that's so cool. There she is laughing. Here's why that's so cool. It's because what we insist upon, what we think is the right level, is exactly where we will land. So it's very important where you place your bar. And I already knew that, and I'd forgotten. So Tracy, thank you for that reminder lesson, and welcome to the segment of the Leadership Summit, Seeking the Path. We're going to get some info from you.
Sounds good. I'm super excited to be here too.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. And you really did have an instrumental effect on how I then moved forward. So I really do sincerely want to thank you for that. And let's start with that. How is it that you were able to say, no, I'm worth this much? What's your history?
Yeah, gosh, so that doesn't happen overnight, as you know, right? I think that's probably the hardest part of anybody that is deemed successful in their careers. Just that idea that you get to that, you know, the self-limiting beliefs at some point, they do take over and they start to sabotage your success. And so for me, I don't remember exactly the $400,000, but I remember sitting in that room with everyone and thinking, you know, I needed to up my game. I really did need to be very mindful that I was going to be my own worst critic, right? I was going to be the only thing that was going to hold me back. So when you're networking with people like you and other super successful people, you have to remind yourself that, you know, hey, wait a minute, I can't be attached to that one negative comment that somebody else said, or, you know, the sum of the few negative things that are said, that I have to aspire to the things that I know I can do. And so anyway, that summit was that for me as well. I did leave that summit thinking, oh my gosh, you know, I should be in this room, and I do have what it takes to be at the table. And so it did the same thing for me that it did for you, apparently, at that session.
Isn't that funny? It did it for you, and you did it for me. That's a great takeaway. Okay, so but what is your history?
So a sports background. Gosh, if you, I know you don't want to hear about my, you know, whiny teen years or anything, but I grew up, you know, in a trailer, 14 by 70 trailer, and at some point realized, you know, that I was going to have to get really good at something to, you know, go to college. I ended up going to college on a softball scholarship. So I come from a pretty athletic background, which has served me well because, you know, that the goal setting and being able to be a good teammate and overcoming obstacles. I was so fortunate that I got to learn that in an athletic environment. And so I had a lot of success, you know, in softball. Also had a couple of injuries that created some setbacks for me. So had to really dig deep to overcome that. And then found a company that I've been an independent contractor with for about 25 years. Now I'm a vice president for that company as well. So I've just gotten, I always had a lot of life lessons from whether it's the vocation that I selected or the teams that I've been on. And so it served as just a great training ground for me. So it's a little bit of my background.
It's beautiful. And you're vice president of a company that does what?
But it's a billing and collections company is what it does. That's a 28-year career, while at the same time building up a leadership academy. So we have a company called the Exceptional Leaders Lab, and the Exceptional Leaders Lab the last couple of years has just been, you know, crazy the way it's taken off. It was formed from the book, you mentioned the book, What Exceptional Leaders Know. And so we created this lab, and it was really just, you know, kind of a way to go and do speaking engagements for other companies. And it's kind of taken on a life of its own though. So super proud of that.
That's so interesting. I just had a thought. I probably had the thought before, but lost it. So the company you're vice president of works with numbers. Like, you're thinking about numbers, you're thinking about billing, you're thinking about collections. It's a very interesting thing because I think what you bring, maybe that was why the 400,000 was sort of like a minimum, right? Because many of the people I've talked to are so busy being creative or busy being actors, busy being models, they don't think about numbers.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for a second, because maybe that's somewhere we should stretch ourselves to.
Yeah, I remember, and I do remember the exercise when Justin was having us put, you know, what does success look like? And certainly the revenue has to be a piece of that. You know, I mean, too many times people think too small, or they say success is I will feel this way, or somebody will recognize me in this way. And so that would be lopsided, right? I do think you have to have, for me anyway, that component of being able to quantify, you know, what the value is. So I think that might come from an athletic background too, is that, you know, yes, I agree, everybody should just be able to play, but at some point, man, give me the trophy, right? So, you know, at some point, you know, that recognition. And so as in the mastermind we were in, that was, in my opinion, being quantified by how many books did you sell? What would the revenue be from those? What, you know, as he talked about getting in the funnel and creating other clients, what that looks like. So I do think that's a big part of being able to quantify the success. Not all of it for sure. So, but it has to be at least represented, because it would be irresponsible not to.
Right. You know, and that's fantastic, because we're going to get into that in a few minutes. But I want to just hit on something. As soon as we left that mastermind, you were like on fire. I saw some of the signings and the people that you met. It was just really, really, really impressive. So not only did you sort of motivate me going in, but you kept me motivated. And I appreciate that. And thank you. What was the most exciting, and sometimes it's just the beginning thing, because can be the exciting moment, but what was the most exciting or the most memorable experience you had while, you know, doing book signings and talking to people and creating your leadership lab?
Interesting. Yeah. So when we left there, I was thinking much bigger when I left than when I went in, and we released our first book. I think about a month after that, it did hit bestseller within, I believe, 3 or 4 weeks. So that was, I mean, that just the idea that, to write a book. And by the way, the co-author, my business partner, Wally Schmader, that book doesn't happen without him. So he's an amazing business partner to me. And I think, many times when you sit down to write that book, you go, why me? Why are they going to read what I wrote? And then at some point you go, why not me, right? And he said to me one time, Tracy, everybody wants to write a book. Everybody has a book in them, but very few people are disciplined enough to actually do it. And so he's been a great inspiration to me in that. But that hitting bestseller, and then just, I think, the overall excitement and love from all of the people that I was connected with in some way. That was probably the most exciting thing. The people that show up at the book signings, or the people that sent me a note that said, how proud they were. And since then, the notes that I get that say, there was this one thing that you said on page 67, and I've used that, and that's made all the difference. It's really those things. I mean, I've gotten to meet, Brian Tracy and Patrick Lencioni and Steve Farber and all these amazing leadership gurus as well. So that's exciting. But I think knowing that something that you did made a difference for somebody else that read that trumps all of it, right? I think that's been the most exciting thing, is that it's affecting people, it's inspiring people, and it's helping people be better leaders. So definitely.
Yeah, that's very, very cool, because you were already very established and doing really well in your world of business. Being a vice president of a big company is kind of a big deal. So, and you care about money, and yet, when I asked you that question, your answer is the way in which you're helping people help themselves.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't, it's not sustainable if that's not the biggest component of all of it, right? I don't think you can continue to be profitable if you aren't helping other people along the way. I think that's a short term. I don't think I'm sitting here talking to you. I think we sell a bunch of books and bam, the lights out. But I do think the idea that the focus is always, are we inspiring people? Can we help people? We just did a session this last week, and our objectives for that, it wasn't around how many people were going to show up and all that. It was really around, when they walk out of there, what will they be able to go do? What can we hand them where they can go, okay, this is going to make an immediate difference in my business and in my leadership. So I think those things are always the things that you and I have to focus on, right? It can be, because if not, it's a very short career.
Right. It is the email that you get back that says, I've been listening to your show and I've been doing all this. It's very exciting. Okay. 3 questions. I've asked the same 3 questions of everyone, so I'm asking them of you. What is what's your definition of leadership?
Leaders serving. When the first thing I think of as leadership is the ability to inspire and infuse, whether it's education or inspiration, in the people that you serve, so that they can be their best, right? I remember one time, and I was playing softball in college, and my coach was, down in the third base box, and I had grounded out yet again. I was in a hitting slump, and as I came across the field, and she kind of grabbed me and said, hey, I need your leadership. And I was like, yeah, gosh, coach, I'm doing my best. I'm doing everything I can to hit, and sometimes that ball looks like a watermelon, but today it just looks like a BB. And she looked at me and she goes, I don't care if you ever hit the ball or not. What I mean by needing your leadership is you have forgotten to continue to inspire the other people that are going up to bat. Quit thinking about yourself. And I don't know, that was it. I was like, oh yeah. So I was still in a hitting slump after that, but at least I understood that didn't mean that, the leadership was over, because the leadership is really how everybody else around you does, right? That's what leadership
is. Right, and so they got to hit the ball even if you were missing. Right. And actually you found out you had more skills than you thought, right?
Well, and it's in some ways easier, right, to not think of yourself. I think sometimes it's easy to think of yourself, but when you understand that it's not my intention, it's your experience, and if my shift is on your experience in the exchange, that's a whole different skill set. And really, leaders know how to do that.
Right. Okay. Question 2, the fantastic answer. Thank you. And with a story, how great is that? Second question, and I think you already did sort of cover this, but I want you to go a little deeper then. What is your definition of success? Or let's make it personal. What is Tracy's definition of success for Tracy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that when what you want lines up with what you're doing. I think, to be successful is to dig deep, those things that you really want to accomplish, those things that mean the most to you, when every day you're in alignment with accomplishing those things. I don't think it's successful if you make a bunch of money, but yet you're compromising your family, or you're compromising your integrity. I think when all of those things get to line up, that's what real success is.
I agree. I agree with that. I love that. You said that so well. All right. And the last of the third questions is, how would you describe the path to somebody? So what is the path, given your definition of leadership and your definition of success, what's the path to get there, especially if it's someone sort of just stepping off the cliff there and they're trying to get advice from you?
Yeah. So, I mean, to get crystal clear on what you want, to really be able to quiet all of the distractions and get super focused on the things that you really do want. One of the strategies we talk about in the book is having a personal board of directors, which is to surround yourself with those people that can influence you in a way that can shortcut some of the learnings that you have to get what it is that you want. So sometimes, out of a conversation with someone, you might think, this is really what I want. And then you talk to them and you hear what it takes to get there. And you might go, yeah, not so much. Or maybe you'll talk to someone else and you'll be inspired to be moved in a completely different direction, something you've never heard of before. And you go, you know what, that really gives me goosebumps, or that's the thing that's going to make me get up every morning to do whatever it takes. So I think it's those things. I think it's getting quiet enough to be, to get that clarity. I think it's pursuing other people that can shortcut your successes so that you can learn from them. And I think it's just paying attention to that joy and to what the word joy really means, because stress is anything outside of joy, anything that you're doing that doesn't lead to, to the joy or what you ultimately want. And I don't know why I'm being moved to tell you this, but, I think the vision board is, I have two thoughts about that. One is, I think people go, oh gosh, these are all the things I want, and they throw them on this board, and then they just sit back and they go, I wonder when that's going to happen. And I think they've missed the point. I mean, that wasn't the point of the vision board, right? And it never was. The point was that it creates a focus for you, so that those things that you pay the most attention to, you'll start to do things that you wouldn't normally do, but because you're thinking and so focused on, okay, hey, wait a minute, this is something I need to do to be able to connect to that's on the board. So just, again, getting clarity and being quiet enough to pay attention to those things.
I love that, because in fact, it's probably even more important now because we have so much stimulus coming at us, so much, like, that joke where they go, squirrel, yeah. Right? But it's really, really true. And if you don't have clarity on exactly what you're trying to build, you just go off and do a million different things and they never come together and you can't get anywhere with them. And it's not because you're not busy, and it's not because you don't have hard work ethics, and it's because you didn't get enough clarity to know when to pay attention, when to take action, and when not to, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I remember Zig Ziglar years and years ago, he said, are you going to be a meaningful specific or a wandering generality? And
I love that.
Isn't that great? And when I was young, I was like, what does that mean? But very quickly, I was like, oh, I know exactly what that means. Because if you don't have that clarity, then you will be pulled off in all these different directions. And, only to find, 3 years go by and you're like, wow, I've done nothing. I listened to all these, amazing motivational things, and then I did nothing with it, right? So I do think you have to think of yourself, in those times to get that, direction. And then sometimes, and most of the time, it means saying no. Sometimes it means letting go of certain people in your life, letting go of certain, things that have come to define you. But, reinventing yourself is really just continuing to pay attention to, are you where you want to be, for sure.
All right. So if people want to continue to learn from you, and they probably should, how do they follow you, sign up to learn from you, get your books, all that stuff?
Thank you. Exceptionalleaderslab.com. That's one way. TracySpears.com. I have a website as well. I'm on Twitter, Tracy L. Spears. Would love to connect with you on LinkedIn or Facebook. We also have a Tracy Spears Speaker Facebook page. So just thrilled for the opportunity.
They're out there. It's easy to find.
That's right.
All right. Any last words that you want to share?
No, just I'm just so excited for you and anxious to see your success. Anxious to get a hold of that book and read it, and sending you nothing but love.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And you actually made your love tangible. And I'm going to just pat you on the back for that. Right after meeting Tracy, I was running a crowdfunding thing for my show, Fix It in 5, on the Autism Channel, so that I could go help a family in Israel without them having to pay. And not knowing me very well, she was a generous contributor, like right away with just one little email. And so people that are true leaders, they're all, and really have a heart for what they're doing. They're also generous. I love that you said serve, because I think you serve. And I want to just pat you on the back. Thank you for that. Give you a little accolade, because it really was wonderful of you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Okay. Bye. All right. We're going to push the little button, stopping broadcast.
Bye.